Good Sunday morning, friends. Sorry, I got my BCGs on. I wanted to give you an update on this bowling alley setup I'm putting together, this lap steel. And I've got everything hogged out. I was just thinking to myself, you know a guy who put together an AR-15 over the winter, a lower 80, and you just happen to know the guy that's got the plunge bit and a little drill press. So dummy me goes downstairs and gets my drill press, and we were able to make some progress. We hogged out for the pickups. The other end is still a work in progress. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put my my tuners at, but this one, and you see I got them going in kind of an angle there. It kind of points backwards, so that when I do get the nut on there, which is going to go right in here, that the string will actually go down a little bit, and it'll go at a good angle. I'm trying to think that maybe on these guys, I'll probably try to make this the same height as my bridge, and I might block it back here and block it in front with either stainless or a piece of very hard wood, maybe some hickory or some cedar. I do have some cedar, but that's going to be the tuning end of it, and I got to get this filed out. I have some small files, and I've worked on those before to where I got them filed out, but this bone is pretty hard stuff. I may have to get the Dremel tool and just a real fine blade. Now, the business end, I still have to drill my holes for the pickups, but they're going to fit just dandy down in there, and they're actually probably going to be adjusted up really close to the strings. And of course, the bridge is a tunable bridge, which I've never used before, but I'm going to try that. We'll see. And these don't go through the bottom; these just go into the side there, hook. And I've set it up to where everything's lined up, so that wire is going to go right on top of those two pickups on these buckers, and then of course the two down here. I am not using 1 and 6. I'm just using 2 through 5. So there's going to be 4 strings in use. And if I want to add, I guess I can. I'll have to do something down on this end because this is kind of offset. So I might have to add a piece right in here if I want a 6th string for the tuner. I don't know. I'll have to put in a bigger bridge too, because this bridge is only for 4 strings. But it's like the only tall bridge I could find. I mean tall nut I could find. But we'll get that set in there. I don't think I want to inlay it because I want the strings up high. And they have to be, if you see, that nut's going to be the same height as the strings, if not just a little bit lower. But it's not going to hurt anything. It won't kill us. But the bridge won't go all the way down. It's in there tight and snug. If it stands up a little bit, that's fine. That's kind of what we want, right? At the end of the day. And then I'll take it back to the mill. I say mill, it's a planer, that old saw that I got for Sherry. Now, I was discussing it about, you know, if you were working on an old house, 50, 75 years old, it's going to have 2 by 4 in it, not 1 by 3.5 or 1.5 by 3.5. But you have that planer so that if you have to rebuild a wall in one of these old houses, you put the belt, you move the motor, put the belt on the planer, and then you take that piece of 2 by 4 lumber and you take a 1/2 inch off of each side, and then it will match up with your new lumber. Because in an old house, you're going to find, you know, boards that are unserviceable, right? They're going to be rotted out at the top, usually. I mean, at the bottom, usually, where the floor's at. But you get into a house that's over 100 years old, and it'll have solid oak, hard oak, hand-hewn, whatever the native lumber is. Hell, some of them you could find cottonwood in them. Whatever people needed to build houses, that's what they had around them. before the railroads came, they didn't have access to, you know, milled lumber. They either had to build a mill or get out the axes and the adzes and do it by hand. But that's a pretty handy little machine, and I got everything milled down. I think I may have a few mill marks on the back end. Well, a lot of that's dirt because I'm not allowed to work projects on the kitchen table. The kitchen table is over there. So thank you, Costco, for selling cheap picnic tables. We have about 1 million of them because Sherry is a garage sale queen. But anyway, yeah, I've got a little bit of planing marks here where I cut back here. And then I actually went to the store for my 4.5-inch angle grinder, and I got like an 80 grit. I don't know what you would call it. It's like a cutoff wheel, but it's got paddles on it, like sandpaper paddles. It's pretty aggressive and it's pretty mean. But I might do some more of this with this plunge bit, and this is going to have to change up. You know, some of the guitars, they just have an angle that goes like across here, like that, and then you got your tuners here, 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 here. But I'm going to have, I've already got a hole drilled. I'm going to have one here. I'll probably narrow this up and have another one right in here, and then maybe 2 up here, or I'll cut this shorter and put them up here on the end. But it's coming along. I'm getting ready to get these buckers installed and get the holes drilled, and then they'll be set in there. And of course, you got a little trim ring that goes in, and that covers everything up nicely, so it'll look pretty. It looks ugly right now. I mean, it's rough, but I'm not going to do any more. There's no need to. That's why I have trim. I don't know the difference between handcrafted and hand-built, but if you want to build something on your own, it doesn't require CNC machinery or computer technology or expensive equipment. I'm the kind of guy that, you know, I work on a lot of cars and crap. I know people, some very good, very successful mechanics that have these enormous boxes. You know, they owe Snap-on tens of thousands of dollars just for a box and a few tools, and then they got to buy the rest of the tools on the way. So they're on, you know, they're in debt their entire life. I learned from Dad. He's got this small box. It's probably a 4-foot by 6-foot box. I think it's a Mac tool, 1980 something, 1980, maybe 1970, late 70s. He's been working out of that box his entire career. Some specialty tools, you know, for transmissions and things like that. I mean, he's got these tools. He's got this ridge reamer. So at the top of the cylinder, where the piston comes up, the ring sets about that far below, and there's always like a ridge, you know, because the cast iron wears into this block, and you got to cut it when you pull pistons out. I know it's above and beyond a lot of folks, but anyway, he bought this ridge reamer back in the 60s when he was a General Motors master mechanic. And a couple of years ago, I did this Jeep, Mildred, and it was really soft. And I was like, we got to cut this ridge out. And Dad's like, yeah, I got a ridge reamer. And he brought it over, and it was in a box that looked like it had been setting in oil. But you pulled the tool out, and it looked brand new, like it never been used before, except for the cutting blades. You see a little, you know, wear on the cutting blades, but you take good care of your stuff. Those are specialty tools that, you know, you don't just have in your back pocket. You got it in a box at home or somewhere. Anyway, he's been working out of this box for 30, 40 years, who knows, forever, and that's all he's needed. And I have a very small box. I got a couple tall boxes in the back because I've got more than one set of tools. But you don't need all kinds of special stuff. A lot of specialty tools you don't need at all. So, a $60 drill press. Here's my drill press right here. Do it. Can you see it? Just a $60 drill press from Harbor Freight. Nothing special. And then the plunge bit. Now you might have to go to a tool shop or get on eBay and get yourself it's called a plunge mill. Not very expensive. You can do a lot with a little bit. These parts I bought are minimal cost. You want to go real good when you go with your tuning lugs. You want to get the good ones. I think these are Grover. I don't know. But get the good stuff and don't buy all the fancy tools. Just do it by hand. I don't know if I could do it with a chisel and a file. That would be really tough. My ex's dad years ago passed away, but he was real good at gunsmithing, and he used to acre glass and make stocks and just beautiful, beautiful work. I don't have that kind of patience. I can't do carpentry work like this. This is not really carpentry. This is woodworking, and I suck at it. But make it work. You can do anything you want to do if you put your mind to it. Use a little YouTube now. We got some really nice videos on there where you can look up stuff and figure out how to do things. Just gain knowledge. One thing the internet has brought is an amazing amount of knowledge, which sadly my son does not use. I'm going to say none of them, but they could figure it out. But he just called me and wants me to go over to his house. His air conditioner is not working. So one more thing I got to fix. So I'm going to sign off here, but I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and don't be afraid to dive into projects that you're scared of. Underconfidence, yeah, that can be a killer, but you can overcome it. You can overcome anything. So don't hesitate to dive in and take on a hobby or a project that you've never done before. You'd be surprised at the outcome. Everybody has the ability to succeed, and we have tools now that really help us to change the odds of failure. Trust me, I have learned from failure. Now, Brother Brian, he learns from pain. He spent most of his weekends at the emergency room getting stitched up. I want to tell you a quick story here. This is fun. So I thought he was done in his youth when he grew up and became a man with injuring himself. Motorcycle accidents, four-wheeler accidents, cutting the tip of his finger off because he was using a vice grip for a shifter on a dirt bike. That kind of stuff, I figured he would outgrow that. A couple of years ago, he wanted to sand the floor in his house, and he didn't want to go rent one of the big, floor jobs with a sanding pad. So he just grabbed a bunch of those paddle wheels for his angle grinder. I'm guessing just exactly what I got to notch this thing out. But I don't know. I'm just guessing. And he was grinding on that floor, sanding the floor down so he could refinish it. And he had long ass hair and a big old nasty beard, something I will never see on myself. But he was grinding that floor down, and his hair was coming down, hanging down, and you bet that angle grinder got a hold of his hair and went whoop right into his head, and it was still plugged in, it was still running, and it was sitting there buzzing, and he yanked the cord out and went into the bathroom, grabbed his straight razor, cut his freaking hair, and of course he's bleeding all over the place, gets a patch on his head, goes to the ER, they put like 5 or 6 staples in his head, and then he calls me up and he says, do you know anybody that takes hair like locks of love or something? I was like, I don't know, why are you asking me? He says, well, he told me the story and I'm cutting all my hair off and the fucking beard's going too. So anyway, yeah, don't learn by pain. If you're going to fail, think about it before you dive in, and that way you fail up here and not losing fingers. Have a great week. We'll talk to you all later. Much love.